Hello everybody, video here for you today. These are the retro no cap recaps of the Curse of Oak Island Season 5, Episodes 17 and 18, originally aired in February and March 2018. If you missed my recaps of previous and future episodes, there's a link to my Oak Island playlist in the upper right. Let's get into it. Do 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 do. Previously on the Curse of Oak Island, people have been looking for an incredible treasure for 229 years. Episode 17 begins with more recap than usual, with narrator Robert Clotworthy recanting some of the history of the Money Pit legend, as well as notable moments from the show concerning the families of searchers spanning 2 centuries. Robert says with all of the differing accounts and news stories, it is difficult for historians to separate fact from fiction, including the identities and ages of the original discoverers of the Money Pit in 1795. It is increasingly likely that at least one of the quote-unquote 3 boys was an adult and had already been living on the island pre-discovery. It is also likely that Samuel Ball was a 4th member of the group. He would later somehow become one of the richest men in the province. Ball had escaped from a Georgia plantation in 1776 when he was 11 and went north. The English governor of Virginia issued a proclamation that any indentured servant or slave that fought on the British side in the war would be granted freedom. Thousands did, including Samuel Ball. He was in New Jersey until the war ended, then made his way to Canada. The lieutenant governor of Nova Scotia gave him land for his service. He already owned 2 lots before the Money Pit was discovered. There is a history of the county of Lunenburg that names Ball instead of John Smith as one of the discoverers, saying that Daniel McGinnis asked Ball and Vaughn to help him after he found the depression under the tree with the block and tackle hanging above it. Samuel Ball would have been 30 years old at the time and would eventually own 9 lots on the island and 100 acres on the mainland. His descendants say that he could never have been that wealthy from his reported business of cabbage farming on Oak Island. Charles Barkhouse says he is convinced that Ball found something. In 1861, the Oak Island Association Searcher Group was formed and within months experienced the first known active searcher death when the boiler of a steam-powered water pump exploded and scalded an unknown worker to death. Rumors of a curse began to spread, and in 1864, a Halifax newspaper wrote a 3-part story about the full history of the treasure hunt. Until then, Oak Island searching was a fairly secretive thing, except locally. Work on the island continued off and on without much success. In 1893, Frederick Blair formed the Oak Island Treasure Company. William Chappell invested in the company, but was also a skilled drill operator who drilled into what was believed to be a concrete-covered 7-foot-tall wooden vault at a depth of 153 feet. The drill also brought up gold flakes and a piece of parchment with the letters VI on it. William's son M.R. Chappell would later dig a shaft near that location, but he too was stopped by flooding. After the deaths of Robert Restall, his son Robert Jr., and 2 other men due to noxious gas, the biggest investor, Robert Dunfield, whose 100-foot wide by 140-foot deep excavation is recanted, took over operations in an attempt to save his investment. The dig not only destroyed that area of the Money Pit, but also failed to find anything, as the cone-shaped pit was only 140 foot deep in the center of it, and it kept collapsing. Dunfield would eventually fill the hole back in and leave the island in 1966. Within the next 3 months, operations on the island would be taken over by Fred Nolan, David Tobias, and Dan Blankenship. David and Dan would form the Triton Alliance, and a feud of sorts developed with Fred. Fred formulated the theory that the island was once a pair, and then they were joined by cofferdams and the interior filled in with soil after the money pit deposits were done. His biggest discovery was Nolan's Cross, a formation of boulders set in geometric place to form a cross. Some theorists say that it is actually the tree of life, and indeed some boulders have been found at extra locations. After having tried to join operations on Oak Island 10 years earlier, the Lagina brothers were finally able to, once David Tobias wanted to sell his portion of Oak Island Tours, and Rick and Marty became partners with Dan Blankenship in 2006. The Laginas built a permanent visitor center on the island, as well as convinced Fred Nolan to work with them the year before his passing. Fred's son Tom has shared his father's maps and research and continues to work with the team. He will be on this Tuesday's episode, February 20th, 2024, as Nolan's Cross is heavily involved. The season finale begins with Gary saying that he took this brooch and gem to a certified gemologist and revealed that it's not a ruby but a rhodolite garnet. They were used as far back as ancient Egypt in ceremonial and decorative use. This one was declared to be from the 15 or 1600s based on the 11 facets on being hand cut. The setting was determined to be silver with a high amount of copper in it, which also fits that time period. The color is because of the copper oxidizing out of it. The next day, it's time for Mike Huntley's DMT caisson dive. The caisson's progress was stopped by what they think is a large metallic plate at 77 feet. Mike will be lowered on this bosun's chair to 50 feet, then exit the chair for the remaining 27 feet. Since it is not a deep dive, it is without the danger of the decompression illness or the bends. So the dive time maximum is extended to 1 hour and 15 minutes. There are paramedics on the scene. The team had put flocculant into the caisson to aid in visibility by making particles stick together and sink to the bottom, but there is still no visibility, and even worse, it's causing Mike to float up after he puts his feet on the bottom. He calls for the chair to be lowered. His dive team adds 60 pounds of weights to his dive suit, and he will dive again. Since there is almost zero visibility, Mike has to go by feel. He says he does think the obstruction is a metal plate. He also is able to gather samples, but there is nothing among them that could stop caisson progression. Since Mike is now out of dive time, his backup Nick Perry suits up to go. Once on bottom, he gets no vibration from his metal detector. He removes his glove and he feels the obstruction, saying it's rough, and he thinks it's a hard granite rock. He brings up these samples. Rick is puzzled by that because the caisson should be able to grind through granite. Someone says that there are some granites that are as hard as steel. Rick intimates that it's disappointing, but you get the data and it's not what you want, but you move on. They halt the drilling and caisson operations for the season. The finds of the year are on the table for the last war room meeting of the season. The most significant would be the lead cross from Smith's Cove and the human bones and parchment from the H8 caisson spoils. As a reminder, the lead cross dates back to medieval times, and the metal comes from a Templar mine in southern France. The human bones date back to the 1600s. One is of European descent, the other is Middle Eastern. The parchment is significant because parchment was also found by William Chappell in 1897. There are also these coins with 1600 dates on them. And of course, the rhodolite garnet and brooch. They all decide to keep going. No Cap recaps of season 11 will debut Tuesday late nights, and I'll also continue these retro No Cap recaps of seasons 6 through 8. Seasons 1 through 5, 9 and 10, and the aired episodes of season 11 are already done. Upcoming streams: answering your financial questions with Coach Steve Money Saturdays and Sundays at 4 p.m. Eastern. And the Ramsey Show After Show will be February 19th, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, right after the Ramsey Show video ends. Once more, I'm Coach Steve Money, Ramsey Solutions Certified Financial Coach. And if you've got money problems or you just want to make sure you're on the right track, you can schedule a free financial coaching consultation / assessment with me at calendly.com/Coach Steve Money. That's a video conferencing appointment, so you can do that from anywhere in the world, including Oak Island. You can email me about coaching or anything else on my YouTube channel, coachstevemoney@gmail.com. Channel donations can go to paypal.me/Coach Steve Money, Cash App, $ Coach Steve Money. Or you can send a Walmart gift card to coachstevemoney@gmail.com. You can add me on the gram at Coach Steve Money. And of course, this YouTube channel is youtube.com/Coach Steve Money. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, like, and comment.